Was everyone able to sign on fairly easily, or were there any challenges with that?
It made me create a Zoom account, which I already had. Took me a few times to get in.
Strange. Okay, cool.
I thought it was odd too.
I was fine. Was able to connect pretty easily. However, yeah, had to remember that I needed to register for this one as well as the others. So did that in a panic.
So it should only require you to register one time. So now that you've registered, we should all be good to go. And
I definitely got recurring meeting invites for every week in my calendar once I did register. So I should be good.
Cool. That's awesome. And somehow our polls got lost. So I will hand it over to Jimena and Liana to introduce themselves and get started on this awesome summit topic. And I'll be working on the back end really quickly to see people are named as Maggie. It's so funny. Amber, you're named as Maggie Lynch. So are you, Casey. And Kevin.
What an honor.
Why am I Maggie Lynch?
I think the link in the invite is for Maggie's, so we'll work that out and let Sarah know. It's all good.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Sorry, gang. Thanks for rolling with the punches here.
Lots of Maggies. I think that happened once before where everyone was Dr. Levy, but today we're all Maggie Lynch. So
it wouldn't be a summit if it wasn't interesting, right? Something interesting has to happen.
100%. All right. Well, now I will pass it over to our wonderful Keeping Families Together manager. I think that's your title.
Yeah. Thanks, Rory. And yeah, for all of you that have been logged in as Maggie Lynch, I was too. You can easily just rename yourself if you want to, or you can remain as Maggie. That's totally fine. So thanks everyone for joining on. For those of you that do not know me, my name is Jimena Salgado Santa Maria, and like Rory said, I am the Keeping Families Together program manager. I am accompanied today by our wonderful Liana Mas, who is our Keeping Families Together implementation coordinator. And yeah, we're just here to talk about this toolkit that was a collaboration with the association and with HSUS, as well as with our wonderful working groups. But before we do that, I know that I've heard the rumor that this group wants to become more casual. So I have some fun questions. And if you all want to answer in the chat, or if you want to actually speak up, it'll make it even more exciting. So I have a list of would you rather questions that can be extremely fun. And here I go. Ready? The first one. Would you rather give up AC and heating for the rest of your life or give up the internet for the rest of your life?
Internet, if we didn't have to use it for work.
I see some people are saying AC and heating. Who wants to explain that reason?
I have never had AC and heat in the same house until I moved to Florida. So when you live without one or the other, you're not really missing it.
Yeah, we have a wood pellet stove that we can use instead of other kind of heating.
Oh, okay.
Brenda, there's a horse in your living room.
I know. It's when you live in the country, you just never know if it'll drop by.
That's amazing.
There was one point in my life where I lived in Providence, and our pipes burst and my apartment dropped down to like 40 degrees, and it was the most painful thing ever, especially with all my cats running around all night. So I don't think I could give up heating, but now that I hear about wood pellets, you said, Brenda, then maybe there is an option there.
I was thinking I would just move.
Or that. It seems like Florida is the perfect weather to be in, so no, not for everyone. All right, next one. Would you rather have a pause or a rewind button in your life? Ooh, a lot of rewinds. Anyone want to share?
So with a pause, you could pause it indefinitely?
Yeah, I mean, technically, sure.
If you have rewind, you would never have any regrets.
But then what would you learn?
Mm.
Yeah, but look at what we would have saved.
Yeah, that's true. Jeez Louise. I was just thinking about so many things.
What about our pause people?
Trying to live in the present.
Just a quick minute to think.
Yeah, totally.
It would prevent a lot of those. Shoot, I shouldn't have said that.
You could rewind that.
That's awesome.
I do have a 1 minute delay on every email I send, and I unsend things daily. So I think either one works. Yeah.
That's a great, I want that.
Yeah, I just recently added that 30-second rewind and it has saved me several times. Or the 30-second delay, yeah. Fabulous. Got another one? This one's a little gross, so I apologize. Would you rather vomit on your hero or have your hero vomit on you?
I don't think I would want Dr. J to vomit on me.
A lot of hero on me. Yeah, I think I'd prefer that too. Nice. Okay, and last one. Would you rather only be able to talk to your dog or cat, or your dog or cat be only able to talk to you and then everyone thinks there's something wrong with you? The second one. Yeah, that would be cool to be able to hear what they're thinking.
Is it just our own animals or all animals?
So it's, you can only talk to animals, like you can't talk to people, or your pet can talk to you. And then everyone thinks there's something wrong with you because your pet's talking to you.
Nobody would eat meat.
Mm.
Also, you could get a job as an animal communicator.
Yeah, I'd rather people think something's wrong with me and have that skill.
We had an animal communicator come to a shelter that I worked at once, and she talked all about her, meaning the dog, and the dog was an intact male, and it was very obvious.
Oh, no. Awesome. Well, thanks for humoring me there. Sorry, my mouse died. Okay. So, Liana, if you want to share your screen and pull up the toolkit real quick. I know many of you have already had the chance to see it, but we just wanted to go over just the navigation, make sure everyone knows how to find it and what it looks like and what's all included.
Working on it, sorry.
No worries.
And I got your polls in whenever you want me to launch those, so just let me know.
Thank you, Rory.
Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, I see head nods.
Whenever you're ready, Liana.
Okay, so up here in Haas in action, you see Keeping Families Together Eviction Response Toolkit. You would press that. That takes you to this main page where you can download the full toolkit up here on that right side, or continue down into where you see our introduction. and our various pages that we have. Our Marcom team are amazing, and they made this so handy where you can press support services. What can I find here? And you'll see all the various things that you can find there. And let's say you're only looking for legal aid services, you could press that and be taken there immediately rather than having to scroll through everything. And that's the same with all of our different pages. What can you find here? You can jump to all of them. So just to go to support services, and this will take us to the top. Again, you can download the section, each section individually or the toolkit as a whole. So we wanted to make this accessible to folks who may not have internet access, or in the case that people want to distribute this in paper format, that's available as well. So again, we have a lot of our sections divided up into these tables that say action steps versus tasks for staff and high-level volunteers and tasks for any volunteers. We know most shelters are very overwhelmed right now, don't have a ton of time on their hands, are short-staffed due to COVID, and we tried to take that into account when creating the toolkit so that work could be dispersed to volunteers rather than putting the onus 100% on staff, and making sure that every recommendation we had a volunteer aspect as well. And throughout we have success stories. You'll probably see some of our amazing shelters have shared stories, photos, videos with us, and those are all included in here as well. And all of these highlighted areas are links that you can jump to. So we can go to sample email for vets in the community, and it'll download in your bottom corner in your downloads. Any other sections you want me to show, Jimena?
No, I think that's good.
Okay.
Will you go back up to the sample documents actually? Sorry.
Yeah. So we have, if you press any of these, they'll just download directly to your computer. So I don't know if the share screen showed you, but when I pressed sample email to veterinarians in your community, it downloaded. Let me see if I can open this up. Let's see.
Some will also be links to websites, and those should open up as separate tabs.
Can everybody see my Word doc? Okay, so this opened up directly to a sample email to partner veterinarians to try to partner with them to get vet care, spay neuter for owned animals. This happens to be from Pima Animal Care Center, but there are many other documents from a variety of animal shelters that you can find in the toolkit.
And so the goal with having all these sample documents, some of them are in PDF, some of them are in like Word document form, but ideally we want you to use them. They were shared with us with the notion that people can use the language or can get ideas from them, or even just insert their own organization's name, so that the template, the document is already made, so that then you can go ahead and learn from that document and use it as well. So please feel free to learn from those and use them as much as it fits your organization.
Yep, and as Jimena said, there are a variety of links in here that will go directly to websites and things like that where there's no downloads or anything like that. You want me to unshare, Jimena?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so Rory, want to drop in the first poll, please? All right, so is your organization currently prepared to offer temporary boarding for pets of individuals and/or families experiencing housing insecurity? You can answer yes, no, unsure, or not yet, but it's in development.
People, a couple more minutes or a couple more seconds here. All right, 14 of 31 have voted. Any more votes? All right.
67%. I love that. That's awesome. And we have another 20% that's in development. That's great. So from those of you that are implementing this type of programming, we'd love to hear from you. Please let us know how that's going for you.
Hi, this is Chris in Rochester, New York. We've only done a few sort of case by case, like evictions or hospitalizations, where we've taken animals in temporarily. But the plan is, and we've got the pieces in place, we hope to continue to be able to either board the animals here or in our growing foster program. So so we have a couple animals that have been held here for the 2 weeks or thereabouts. In one case, it was 30 days. And in a couple other cases, we've had animals go into foster care for with agreements between the owner and the foster caregiver for the temporary care for that animal. Hoping it doesn't the demand doesn't exceed what we're capable of doing, but we're trying to build the foster network in preparation for that unknown spike.
Yeah, both of those programs are going to help each other tremendously. Do you feel like, what's been your biggest challenge in that program?
Well, we didn't have a foster program for dogs prior to mid-March last year. So it was just getting our foster program established and then growing it beyond just what can satisfy the shelter dogs, the shelter needs. So I think that's been our biggest challenge, is that we were kind of starting from scratch with a foster program. But beyond that, it's a different type of recruitment of foster caregivers. They're not, they have to be accepting of a different scenario, that it's not that they're temporarily housing an animal and assisting with rehoming it, but they have to, accept what we're doing and, as this community service, to try and be a safety net for, their fellow community members. So I think that's a bit more challenging, and it's going to pose a challenge for the pace of recruitment of temporary foster caregivers.
Is anyone else having similar experiences?
This is Jen from Baltimore, from Barks. We are same as Chris. We started just changing our mindset and offering this longer term temporary boarding. The issue that we see is, it's hard to set an exact time frame because they have no idea when they're going to get new housing. So, you're recruiting. On one hand, it's easier to recruit fosters because they know this animal has a home, and it's not one that they already go in with the mindset that I'm not keeping this animal. There's an outcome for it, and that brings a little bit of comfort. But then the other side of it is you don't really know how long you might keep it. So we're trying to have, we have guidelines, and we're trying to have people keep in touch with us every week, keep us updated on their situation, guess when they think they might, get housing. But I mean, they don't know. They've been uprooted for various reasons. They have no idea. But we tell them we at least need to hear from them, so that we know that they're still engaged and still want their animal back. And we explain to them what's happening on the animal side and the importance of all of that from that perspective too. So we've had some animals stay temporarily. We have one that has been with us for many months and will probably be with us for many more months. And that one was an explosion, and the owner was badly burned. And but from the moment of being put into the ambulance, into the hospital, all along the way, he kept begging everybody to please keep his dog, please save his dog. And so I got calls from the mayor's office and everybody under the sun, including his Red Cross sponsor, everybody, to help him with his dog. And then of course we spoke to him eventually, and it's a tough situation. I think this one's really long term. So that's kind of, it's like, where do you draw the line? But you know, honestly, we tried him in a foster home. It did not work. And we're not going to try him in another foster home. So we have an extensive plan for him here because he is high energy. He's got lots of behavioral challenges. You know, we have enrichment and play groups and walks and all kinds of stuff we've had to put in place for him. So hopefully this one will end with a good ending. But you know, it's challenging.
No, that's an amazing story and tragic, but also the fact that you're all committed to support that family and staying together in some way. So that one was more of a tragic situation. What about evictions? Are you all seeing evictions already?
Yeah, we are seeing them, not that many, luckily. You know, we know the big droves of what everybody's expecting has not happened yet. But those where their agreements have ended or some other loopholes have occurred, we have gotten some of those. We just had a family who had adopted to us, completely loved their dog. We were all crying out front with them while they were surrendering the dog to us. While we were promising that we were going to put in temporary boarding, they had to leave their child at home because the child is so connected to the dog that they knew that would be even harder for them. They're crying, we're crying, you know, and they were being evicted and they weren't expecting it, and the circumstances just weren't good. But you know, they think they'll have a new home in a month, so we're obviously working with them. So yeah, I mean, we've had several that were evictions, but I think we've had a couple where it's been hard to get in contact with them. They gave us an email address, but they don't respond very often. So we've had some of that happen. And we've had others who are really on top of it, including the burn victim. He's continuing to communicate with us. He just has no idea because the housing he's in now, he's actually out of the hospital and in housing with a friend. He can't take the dog there and he doesn't know what his future holds. So, you know, that's why his is a little tougher. But these other ones, there seems to be a little more progress. It's just keeping in touch with them can be challenging at times. But in the end, we've reunited some too, and it feels great. So there's a lot of positive to it also. It's just, it definitely takes a lot more time and effort.
Great, thanks, Jen.
Sure.
Is anyone else having experience with evictions already?
You know, we're not having so much problems with evictions in Los Angeles yet, but it reminds me of something we did experience recently that might be helpful. We had a gentleman come in and surrender a dog, and his name was the same name as his son's, but his son was being deployed for military duty. So the son did not know the father had surrendered the dog. So that ended up with us in a little bit of a tangle with the Justice Department. And we ended up, we resolved it, but the way we resolved it was we ask everybody when they come in to surrender or turn in an animal, if they are the owner and if they're involved in active service. And that might just be something people would want to look at just to protect yourself from having to waste time on a legal tangle.
So I'm curious about the evictions, mainly because this moratorium was extended and we're still hearing that there are loopholes and people are being evicted. And so if you do have community members that are coming in and being evicted, and it's going against what the moratorium says, do you all have the information to share with clients as to what they can give their landlords?
For us, we have a partnership with our local Maryland Legal Aid. It's a free service for folks, and so we do give them their contact information so that they can work with them. But you know, we're not necessarily getting down to the detail of whether or not it was a legal eviction, not a legal eviction. We just know that it was an eviction. So some of them we've heard that it was just the end of their contract and they weren't going to renew it. And so then they were evicted because they were trying to stay. And, you know, there was some like that. Others we've heard there were loopholes, but quite frankly, we take in everything that animal control picks up. So we don't always get the information directly. It comes through them and they don't always provide, they don't always get the detail. So we don't know, but then we reach back out and try to get them at least the information for legal aid so they can work with them.
Okay, great. Yeah, in our advocacy section, we have even your flyer from Barks, we have as an example. And aside from other legal aid resources, I just also wanted to share, so I'm gonna look for it in a second, but there is that document that the CDC provided for folks to give to their landlord if they're trying to evict them illegally within that, within this time frame. And we're hoping, I mean, they extended it a month, so who knows, they might continue to extend it. But I'm just so worried about these loopholes and so worried about the families that are continuing to be evicted for other, you know, these other reasons that they're trying to use as excuses.
Was it extended through January? When you say another month, is it just January? Okay.
Yeah, January 31st.
Do we think there's a possibility they'll extend it again, or does it seem like that's really going to be it?
We don't know. I mean, there's rumors, but with how they treated this month, it seems like they might go month by month. So it all depends, especially now with our new administration coming into office.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Rory, want to share the next poll? All right. Is your organization currently able to offer pet care packages for individuals and families facing eviction? This could include leashes, crates, food, ID tags, bed, toys, etc. Yes, no, unsure, or not yet, but it's in development. Love that 88%. That's amazing. How are you all gathering your donations and supplies?
Well, we just had our, we have a holiday wish list drive every year from roughly from after Thanksgiving until the beginning of the new year. And so that brings in bins. We put bins throughout the community. That brings in loads of, I think there were like 50, 55 bins this year at local venues. And then we were fortunate to get a, after that, we were fortunate to get offered some supplies that came through through a large unnamed online pet supply distributor.
That's awesome. Anyone else doing anything differently? No, great.
Hey, Maddie, I'll just add that when we're not fortuitous enough to have like a windfall, we you know, we try and budget for supplies to provide in our outreach and support program. And so this is, you know, an extension of that. And we have a Friends of the Shelter organization that we ask for funding every year. And so we've incorporated that into the annual request from our Friends group.
That's very helpful. That's awesome. Is anyone struggling to gather these kind of donations? Well, that's good to hear. That's awesome. Before we jump into the next poll, I did want to get some feedback on the toolkit. So if any of you have already started diving into the sections, I'd love to hear your initial feedback, any initial thoughts on what you've already looked at.
Hey, sorry, I hopped in late. I had to do a foster fail Felvy adoption. Say that 5 times fast. So I shamelessly went ahead and stole, not stole, borrowed, adopted, whatever, integrated, we'll use that one. The KC Pet Project, what is it called? Not a guide, it's a playbook. And so I've been using that to merge it over with the APA PASS program to kind of give it a little zhuzh. So we're working on that, which is super exciting. And Rory's going to do some content polish because I know words good. I just like to do stuff. I don't talk about it, just do some stuff. But so yeah, so getting a lot of input and whatever to make that more updated and available for the community, because PASS, so it supports like all of Texas, which if anybody's been to Texas, it's huge. And so it's bigger in Texas, problems are bigger in Texas as well. And so solutions have to be bigger in Texas. So working on that. So, but that's pretty cool. And so the KFT, I got the inside scoop from it behind the scenes before it went out into the world. So it kind of got a little head start, but yeah, so that's just more momentum and getting things done. So it's super exciting, super happy about it.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucy. And that was our goal, that all of the shelters can use each other's resources and learn from each other. So that's great. Anyone else?
I just want to say I think it's an amazing resource. I haven't had time to look at everything yet, but we're in the process of trying to start a pet food pantry. So just having all of those resources is massively helpful.
That's awesome.
Anyone have great ideas for storage solutions for that pet food pantry? We don't have space in our building and we're trying to figure out how to get it in a place that is pest controlled and HVAC potentially regulated because of the humidity where we're at.
Check with your volunteers. I'm not kidding. Find a garage, and it decentralizes the resources too.
Yeah, we tried that before and it didn't necessarily go over well. It was one of those, okay, everything's got to go now. So we want to sort of distribute it from the shelter.
Gotcha.
We actually rented those storage pods for ours.
And did that work? Because we did that once and the pests got in.
Well, you have to keep the doors closed. And we sort the food too to make sure we've got the oldest labels out there first. So it's continually being rotated.
Cool,
Brenda, were there issues with the climate, the temperature? I'm assuming.
Not for us here in LA. I mean, it gets hot sometimes, but it cools off at night. So we really haven't had a problem. We occasionally even get freezes.
Are you keeping them in the original packaging, like the 50-pound bags, or are you repackaging them, Erica?
Now, I haven't actually been on the site, but my understanding is that we're keeping them in the regular packages, but the day before, after we know how many appointments we have and we can estimate how many walk-ups we'll have, we do repackage them for distribution.
Okay. Erica, have you been doing something similar?
No, we haven't been repackaging, no.
Okay. I can just speak to what worked at PAC at Puma Animal Care Center, where we had that heat. We had the pods very similar to what Brenda was saying, but the pests were a huge problem for us. We had mice and rats occasionally. So our solution for that was, when you have a 50-pound bag, putting them into about 4-pound Ziploc bags, the like sealing ones, labeling it with the date that it was sealed at, and the name of the brand of food, all that stuff, dog or cat, and then putting them into the big storage container bins that don't have holes in them, the ones that have lids and shut, and then stacking them on top of each other. The Sarah Aguilar says, and pregnant squirrels. Yes, we had quite the critters that found their way. We found success with preventing them from getting in that way, but they had gotten in before. So I don't know if that would work in Florida, but it worked in Arizona.
That was actually a debate whether we repackage and what would be the advantage to that. So clearly there is a good one.
Great. I love that we can all give each other feedback. That's awesome. So are there any areas so far of the toolkit that y'all finding not useful so far? Oh, and we have some news. House just voted to impeach if anyone is interested. Good to know. Thank you, Brenda.
And thank you everyone for being with us through that. We know a lot of people would probably want to be watching the news, so we appreciate you being here and giving your feedback.
This is Lauren in San Diego. I didn't have any feedback for any content that wasn't helpful, but I really appreciated that you all included how to engage volunteers in the various aspects of the toolkit, and even went as far to break it down for high-level volunteers and then just our maybe newer, not as experienced volunteers. I thought that was awesome and really helpful for organizations that don't have staff to dedicate to these kind of programs. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that feedback. That was definitely our goal for sure. So no negative remarks? No complaints?
Not yet.
Okay. Love this. It's awesome. Let's see.
Oh, that's super helpful. This says Maggie Lynch, but you're definitely not Maggie.
No, I came in directly because I was late.
No worries.
So next time. This is Erica.
She said, just notice the link to Maddie's Fun Behavior Resources goes to Maddie's Fun Health Resources. Thank you. We can fix that. Those are the things that totally help us. Going through every link is challenging, so we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to give a shout out. We have Chaitanya here. Spring Point was our funder, so huge thanks for them and their support in this project. Couldn't have been possible without them. And just another thing I wanted to make sure everyone knew, there was a huge sense of urgency in getting this out, and we had an original deadline of December 31st. And even though the moratorium was extended, we still wanted to make sure that our shelters were just prepared for what's already happening. So just wanted to talk about that, and we want to learn more about what we're missing and what needs to be fixed because we did it in such a short amount of time. So we're treating this as a living document so we can continue improving it. But we just wanted to make sure this was out there as fast as possible to make sure that the families that are being evicted are receiving as much support as possible because they're the most important for us right now. So just wanted to reiterate that as to the timeline and why it came out when it did. All right, Rory, you want to throw out another poll question?
I love these poll questions.
Does your organization currently offer or can connect individuals and their families to low cost or free veterinary care? Yes, no, unsure, or not yet, but it's in development.
And while you're all filling that poll out, Sarah Aguilar says, if your shelter needs supplies, you can apply for supplies for shelters, which is part of Rescue Bank at Greater Good Charities. And she included a link in the chat. So highly recommend you go through that.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. All right. These percentages are just blowing me away. I'm so excited. 75%. Does anyone want to talk about their experience in being able to offer that kind of service?
And if you all want to clarify, like I know some shelters offer preventative services, and or some they're able to connect with vets with preventative services versus emergency services. I think that's really interesting too. I'd love to know which ones of you can do what.
Well, I'll go again. I feel bad keep talking, so somebody else wants to go cut me off. So we do have a couple different things. So we do have people come to us that need spay neuter support. So we do offer free spay neuter. We have grants for some free spay neuter in certain zip codes, and then we do free spay neuter for any outdoor cat anywhere in all of Baltimore City. So we have those two different grants. And then for medical treatment, there are some things, especially if it's more minor, then we'll do it at the shelter. You know, if it like even as simple as like fleas, they have a lot of fleas and we'll do flea treatment or something like that. But sometimes it's just simple antibiotics or, you know, things like that. But then if it's more major, that's where we have a little bit of trouble. We have a couple places that will do some lower cost care. So we will recommend those, but there's a lot of people who can't even afford that. So sometimes we kind of, at this point, they'll surrender it to us and then we'll put it through our process for unknown animals. And we have lots of vet partners who will partner with us for animals that are in our shelter. So we will send them out then to a vet hospital, have their care done, brought back, and then we'll reclaim them to the owner. So sort of a wraparound right now because we can't do it ourselves. And so if there's not going to be the resources out there, we do it that way because it's going to come to us anyway. So we might as well it through the same channels that we have available to the ones that we were taking in anyway, if that makes sense.
I love the loophole in allowing there to be a reclaim afterwards. So that's really great. I mean, there were 75% of you that shared, so.
Carolyn in the chat says we can do all except true specialty emergency. Our vet hospital isn't equipped.
And I guess I can add to that. So it sounds like a lot of people are able to offer vet services in some way, which is amazing. Our clinic also has a social worker, or our organization has a social worker on staff that does the case management for these financial assistance clients. And that's been very helpful because often, as you all know, when someone comes to us in need, the human themselves is often in crisis as well. So we are able to provide that wraparound care, not only for the animal, but for the human involved, and hopefully get to a better situation. We've had the social worker role for we've had the role for I think about 10 years, and it's been held by a social worker for the last 4 or 5.
Is your social worker the only person that does the case management?
No, a lot of our team at the vet clinic are trained to do some of it, but it is a bit of a different skill set, and we're in Oakland, California, so we have what can be a fairly tough clientele to work with. So it is nice to have someone who has that additional training and skill set.
That's great.
And Chris asked if you'd be willing to share the job description for that role. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, is there a good way for me to do that?
Yes, you can email it to me. You have my email. Thanks, Carolyn.
Anyone else having successes with case management so far? or working on training in case management?
I was gonna jump in again, but I was waiting to like Carolyn and others to see, and Jen, anybody else wants to contribute. We used the case management section of the eviction of your toolkit to help explain that as sort of like the introduction to training folks to, and I tried to frame it as like, this isn't like a new thing. It's more of a new approach to, an old thing, because we've got folks that are in positions, union positions, that have been in them for a while, and they're kind of familiar with customer service or with animal care or with animal control, but just kind of framing it as a different way to approach the same thing would be hopefully better received and kind of less challenged. So we've begun to use the toolkit to kind of support our training and incorporation of the approach.
That's exciting. It's great to hear that it's being helpful.
Can I ask a question? Have other people been using this, and what has been helpful? I'm asking mostly because we're I mean, not only, like it's good to know what is helpful, but we're building out our other resources for the elements. And so wondering if success stories are helpful as you're talking to boards and higher ups, or if the sample documents seem helpful, templates, like what is most helpful for resources for you all?
I love sample documents because then you can, at least it gets you started. It gives you a draft that you can add to.
Thanks, Stephanie. Is there anything missing that we should be adding to these resources? Because most of them are going to sort of be, this one is bigger than our other elements toolkits, but most of them are going to be set up similarly, where we give description, sort of state the problem, benefits, success stories, but then sample documents. Is there anything else that you all need with these toolkits?
I would say a lot of people probably won't have bandwidth, but when they do, having someone at an organization that has a successful program who's willing to share their contact info to reach out would be great. Again, being mindful of people's time and bandwidth.
It's a great idea. I love that.
I guess I'll also toss out to there that we have used that as a professional development opportunity for a lot of our entry-level managers who get to then network with people all over the country. And we've gotten great feedback from our team who are just kind of branching out in that way.
Brilliant. That's so cool. Do you have that outlined somewhere? I'd love to take that in your brain. Okay, I'd love to take that thought to our org development group at some point. That's a wonderful idea. All right, we have 8 minutes left. Jimena, Liana, any other thoughts?
Let's see. Well, Rory, you and I were talking about, I know this goes back to eviction really quickly, but you and I were talking about constables in people's communities and the relationships that animal welfare organizations may have with them. So just curious if any of you do have relationships with your constables and how they are, are they trying to advocate for families? Are they hard to work with? What are the relationships that y'all may have with constables in communities?
And to give a little bit of background, I guess in Pima County, and Sarah Aguilar is on this call, and Liana was there for a while as well. So I imagine they can probably add, but the constables in Tucson tend to be pretty radical in terms of really wanting to push against eviction and offer people support. And so they became sort of like this go-between when they would hear about evictions coming up, then connecting to the shelter. And I hadn't heard about that. And I don't actually know who tends to be in this role. And so I'm curious. Brenda, do you know the constables in LA, for example?
I'm not sure what you mean by constables, because we might have, our government might be a little differently arranged.
Yeah, in Rochester, they're city marshals, so they might have a different title, but it's the folks that go to meet the property manager at the door to change locks and whatnot. So in Pima, they've got folks that are helping with keeping the pets with the families, as opposed to just calling animal control to come get them.
I got you. So fortunately for us, the president of our Board of Animal Services Commissioners is a housing rights person. So we're pretty well connected. I haven't had to personally be involved, but we do have involvement. We do regular workshops for people to teach them how to avoid eviction and how to keep their pets. And we have legal services pro bono available for them.
Could probably invite the Pima County constables to come join us. I know they've joined us before, so try to reach out and get one or a couple of those folks here to talk about what they're doing. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, and I'm sure that if you want to reach out to our board president, Larry Gross, he would be glad to be a participant too for California.
Thanks, Brenda. That would be amazing. I will reach out to you about that.
Sarah Aguilar said Tucson had 8 constables assigned to areas. We reached out to them to build the connection relationship, trying to help them understand, spreading out the evictions, providing extra time to families with pets. They gave animal services heads up when the courts opened up. They report to animal services how many open eviction cases are on the docket, etc.
Well, thank you so much, Jimena, Liana, Chaitana, for everything with this amazing resource. As mentioned, it is a living document, and if you have feedback, thoughts, or things that might be useful to add, please feel free to reach out to us. We can all put our emails in the chat, so if you need anything, you can reach out directly to us. And before we go, we have been thinking about renaming this, which I know we've been we changed the time and all the things, but it's not really the Maddie's Instructor Summit anymore. So we had a quick poll about that as well to see what our regulars think. I think this is the poll. Casey, you made this, right? Yes, this is okay, I'm just launching this. The peer collab, the Wednesday summit, or the dig. So if you could vote on that.
I feel so giggly in these meetings. I don't know. I think it's just all of y'all's energy or something. But even when this popped up, I was like, I don't know why. But whatever you think would be really nice. We love these meetings so much, but we don't really feel like they're representative. And we're getting new people all the time. As you can see, there's probably more new people here. So we want them to feel exciting for new people who might come too.
Yeah, thanks, Casey. And we're going to start doing icebreakers at the beginning too, because we were realizing that this is sort of the place where we're getting to know one another. And some of the other calls tend to be more structured. So we're going to start doing icebreakers and things like that. All right. This is really close. Really close. I don't know, but the Wednesday summit it is. Sorry, Casey. I won.
Hey, you won. I lost. I didn't even vote just now, which is the worst part.
I did not.
I was like, I helped with, you didn't vote either?
I didn't vote either.
It would have been terrible. if you didn't count.
We learned anything. Every vote counts, y'all. We learned nothing a couple months ago. Too soon?
That's a good. Well, thank you all so much. This really is the highlight of my week, and I just appreciate seeing each and every one of you and looking forward to seeing you next week. Kelly, remind us who is next week.
Oh, next week. One sec. I think it might be me, but I'm not sure.
I think it is you.
It's Kelly.
Oh yeah, it's me. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the foster working group and the, I think, yeah.
Foster working group.
Foster centric sheltering.
Foster centric sheltering. Awesome. I'm looking forward to that. Okay. Wonderful to see you all. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
See you next week.